Welcome to Lakecity Live. Today we have an expert designer at Microsoft, Mr. Anudish Koshal, with us. He is currently working on projects such as Microsoft Search, which is also called as Bench, and Copilot. Let's hear some insights from him. Welcome, sir.
Thank
I
you.
have some few questions for you. May I start?
Definitely.
My first question to you is, with AI-driven tools like Microsoft's Copilot, how do you ensure users' privacy and security without sacrificing functionality?
That is a good question. And Microsoft runs on trust.
Right.
So fundamentally, in whatever we do, we make sure that we are prioritizing users' privacy and handle the data in the utmost proper way. So I don't think there's any feature, if it is compromising on the fundamental thing like users' privacy, then that feature is even doing any good, let alone if it is good or bad.
Absolutely.
The way we do it here in Microsoft is that once we have established that we are following certain ethical norms and making sure that the fundamentals such as their data privacy is compliant with various laws and various requirements and certain internal requirements that are the standards that we hold ourselves on, then we decide on how do we ensure the best user experience.
Right.
Now, in a lot of cases, when we think about user experiences, there are two ways of approaching it. One is the consumer way, which is typical for end user products that people like you and I use. And then there are the business or the enterprise software, where these are the softwares which are used in companies at a high level.
Okay.
So, in both the cases, at the end of the day, get the right consent, ensure that we are providing the best experience with the information that is needed, and even if there are certain things that people might not be keen on sharing with us, we still deliver a good enough experience to them. And typically, from the business point of view, we do not rely solely on things that would require personal data. Rather, it's more about features, unlike some other commonly seen companies.
Okay, thank you, sir. That does really build authenticity. On to the next question. How to maintain transparency in design when AI-driven decisions might not be immediately obvious to users?
That is an interesting question. I would like you to elaborate a little on what is it that you want me to answer.
That is something that we discussed in our seminar that just went on. That the prompt that we give, usually we are coming to the end solution rather than discussing about what we actually want when we are directing the prompt. So if you could explain the process of how to actually use AI devices or chatbots in a way wherein the solution is not what we have in our head, but then actually it is solving the problem that is at hand.
Yeah, I think with AI coming in such a forefront, there's another point where not just solution that is in our head that is a threat to giving a good solution or even understanding the problem. The solution that is in AI's mind, that is also a big challenge. So we want to ensure that we are using AI in a way that it is assisting us, not in a way that it is guiding us.
Right.
I would go back to this quote that I had mentioned during the seminar, that machine is a very good servant, but a very bad master. So we have to ensure that we are using AI in an assistive capacity. So rather than asking AI what the solution is, we human use our human intelligence, which is always going to be superior than AI, to devise the appropriate solution, follow the right process, and leverage AI in ways that helps us. If there is a long paper that is you don't have the time to read, ask AI to summarize it, but understand what it is summarizing. Understand the paper itself, and the insights that you draw out of it should be yours and not that of AI.
Right. You also indirectly answered whether AI will take our jobs or not.
AI will take the jobs of people who are delegating their jobs to AI. Again, I'll quote what I said in the seminar, that if you think that my AI can do my job, so might as well let AI do the job. Your boss will sooner or later think that, and you will be out of the equation. Use AI to augment your work. Use AI to empower your processes and do a better job. It's simple. Like there was a time when pencils, only pencils exist, like hypothetically, only pencils exist. Then pen came, then iPad came, then you have the whole thing. So people kept on upgrading their SL and they kept on upgrading their tools of working. It is the same thing.
Right. Okay, thank you, sir. On to my next question. What are some challenges in achieving both accessibility and inclusivity in modern digital products?
Interestingly enough, we see accessibility as an afterthought. We often see कि
right.
ठीक है, once we build something and then we'll figure out where to build the ramp, so to speak. That kind of approach often creates something that is not even inclusive to the group of audience that you are trying to focus. So inclusivity is not just a means of including people with lesser means or with certain disabilities. Inclusivity is a way of thinking of making something so easy that it requires minimum human effort. Now, to quote Cat Holmes, who is one of legendary designers who have done some great work in the space of inclusive design. So, if you are building something that is inclusive by default, you will end up building something that is extremely well designed and extremely usable. In fact, some of the best inventions that came out were created originally for people with certain disabilities. But those were so intuitive and so well easy to use that they transverse into the other consumer spaces. So it is not a question of how do we do inclusivity better. It is a question of let's do inclusivity better and see how good the product can be.
Right. I think you also summed up core UX values to understand the process better. That brings me to my next question. What ethical concerns do you see emerging in UX industry with the rise of AI platforms?
I think the fundamental ethical concern with AI is people depending on AI too much.
It's a habit now.
Yeah, so it is okay to depend on certain tools, but then using it in the right way is also important. So it is at the end of the day a double-edged sword. So if you are telling AI to create a persona for you, you are essentially not doing the human thing that a human needs to do.
Yeah,
And ultimately the quality of work suffers. So of course there will be a lot of challenges with these lazy shortcuts that people can end up taking. But the thing here is that they are very prone to failure. So it won't take a very long time to figure out that this is probably not the best idea or not the best approach to go ahead. And the other aspect of that is the privacy concern itself. With so many companies building their own AI tools, not respecting privacy of the users to the extent they should, some things are coming out to be very concerning. And finally, I think the biggest and the most unethical part of the growth of AI has been the impact on artists.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's something called data scraping,
Okay.
where a bot goes on to various portals such as Instagram and takes all the information that is available. So it picks on the pictures and the context around with it. So scraping is what creates the initial data set that an AI is trained over. So the whole machine learning process happens. So in that scraping, a lot of time they are just scraping everything and anything that is available in the public domain.
Right.
Now, because of that, a lot of people's work gets into the AI machine and is eventually used by whatever AI tool you are using to generate images itself. So you're kind of using someone else's work without giving them the due credit. And I think that is the biggest threat. And I think ultimately we will come to a point where we realize that you can never limit human creativity and that will always keep on expanding. But there will always be an upper limit to the creativity of AI. And even now, AI cannot create one single image without you giving a good enough prompt.
Right.
So ultimately, you are the ones driving it. So again, there will always be a human interaction with it, and it has to be that way.
Right, that was very informative, leading me to my last question. Can you share any research ethics guidelines that you follow when you are designing in a diverse user group?
I think research ethics are the most important things that a designer should abide by. Fundamentally, when you are trying to understand the problem and the user who is facing the problem, it is important to never let your biases overcome you.
Yeah, right,
So,
absolutely.
if you go out researching to learn and discover what the problem is, what the user is facing, then you end up learning a vast amount of things. But if you go out there thinking that I will go out, do this research to prove my point, you will certainly succeed in proving your point, but you will be a big failure
Right.
because your point may or may not be right. And you'll miss out on so much rich information that can come out. So, firstly, making sure that you don't go with a bias. Secondly, you don't push that bias on the other person. And then you have to give others the space, the comfort of talking and expressing. There were some projects that were discussed in the seminar where the topic was around mental health.
Right.
Now, if you're doing a research on something so sensitive, you are inevitably putting the person in a state of vulnerability. And that is where you have to make sure that that person feels comfortable, heard, and also feels secure that you will not be using that information in a bad way.
Right.
And then you also have to always protect the privacy of the people who you are interviewing. So there's always this thing like lawyer-client confidentiality, there's doctor-client confidentiality. I think there has to be some designer-user confidentiality, or even like a product-person confidentiality, so that the people who are sharing and helping you build something don't end up paying for it in the bad way.
Right.
And finally, I think the most like the final thing that the person can do, which is at the end of the day something that could make or break it, is representing the facts. So no matter what the outcome of your research is, and if it validates or discredits your hypothesis, you should never misrepresent facts.
Right.
Because
Misleading.
and to do that, it is important that you don't hold your opinions very tightly. So you should hold it loosely. Strong opinions held loosely. So that is something that would work there.
Thank you, sir. That was very informative. We learned a lot of insights which opened our perspective to different horizons. For more exciting content, please keep watching Lakecity Live.